Okay, we're talking about optimized targeting, Google Display optimized targeting setting inside Google Ads. It's not something that you want to use right away. And I'm going to explain why on this video. And of course, if you're running Google Display campaigns that you set up recently, I can tell you for a fact you are using it. So you've perhaps got something you're using that you shouldn't be using right now. Therefore, you should watch all the way through this video and find out why that is and then how to get it removed. I'm going to be covering both of those for you in today's video. I'm also going to cover some basic practices on how to make a Google Display campaign work better, specifically having to do with the targeting of your campaign, which if you haven't seen any of my other videos about Google Display on this channel, I talk about all the time. The hardest and number one thing that you have to do is get the targeting right, assuming you do have something decent to offer, is that's the biggest thing. Because even if you have something that people want and you have an average ad and just an average landing page, but the targeting is right, you'll make money. You can have the best product, best offer, best ad, best landing page. Your targeting is not right, you'll never make a cent. Within all the billion people that you can target with Google Display Ads, finding that list of 30,000 people that really is going to be profitable to run your ads at is basically mostly what it's about. So basically, don't fall into the pitfalls of targeting too broadly, which it's very easy to do that with the general advice, we'll just say, that's out there about Google Display advertising, what you'll get, through Google reps. They don't, frankly, have any bad intentions per se. They want you to spend money. But ultimately, you are the one in charge of having to make a profit from your ads. And you got to understand how the targeting settings work so that you can make money, okay? I'll explain how to not be too broad and get down to that fine-tuned, small, defined, finite audience that will make money for your business without wasting all this other money going after everybody else, which makes the campaign unprofitable at the end of the day, even though you're targeting the people who buy. Targeting too many people to people who won't buy will kill your campaign and your bank account and make the campaign falter or fail long-term at some point when you run out of money physically. So, Google Display optimized targeting. Optimized targeting, quote-unquote, as it's called, as it sits right now, is a default option in the new Google Display campaigns, which is why you may have it already running and you don't know it, and should be aware of it as it will take your campaigns off course. What optimized targeting actually does, okay, it's supposed to find you more leads than you had before, or more sales if you're just looking for like e-commerce checkout or something from your site, by looking at your pixel data. So respectively, this is similar to how smart campaigns work, which I'm going to talk about as well. If you've run a shopping campaign, there's smart shopping campaigns. Smart shopping campaigns, through process elimination, find who they should target, and then using the conversion data about what worked to get you a customer or a lead in the past, or specifically with smart campaigns, what got you a customer, and also what got you a customer at a cheap rate and or just a high ROI. It knows how to go after more so and fine-tune the targeting it had to get you more customers at the high rate of return that you're looking for ultimately, or whatever you set that the campaign should be looking for, which is called target ROAS in smart shopping. Well, and just as it sits with Google Display Ads, this optimized targeting essentially takes that aspect of the smart campaign, which is it's whatever's worked to get you a lead or a sale, it's trying to do more of that. Okay? With that said, the fact that it's on by default doesn't make any sense to me, respectively, because in the beginning your campaign's running, you don't have any data to look at, which is kind of fine with smart shopping campaigns because it's easy for Google to kind of figure out how to get you a customer right away. But with Google display campaigns, there is certainly no given that you're going to ever make that work. In fact, Google display ads, only about out of the clients that I see and talk to on a regular basis, only about 5% of them get it to work, because they don't understand the nuances that you have to get it to work. Can it work? Will it always work? Pretty much yes. But you have to be knowledgeable, and you have to stick with it enough to you learn how it needs to be set up. Specifically with the targeting, as I talked about, is the big thing that people don't get in order to get it to work, which I'm going to cover in this video. So with that said, what you want to do when you first start out with Google Display is you want to start small. With any PPC, you start small. You start with a small budget, you go after the stuff that seems the most likely to work, get that to work, and then go after the stuff that seems less logically would work, or work less than the other stuff, and then you build your campaign up to the point where you can't make anything else work, and eventually top out. So with Google Display Network, because it's so hard, start with the easy stuff. Start by targeting people who have been to your competitor sites, which you can do through custom intent audiences and using competitor keywords. Target people who have recently talked about, searched for, read about your brand. Would be even more profitable than the competitor audience, also with custom intent audiences and using your brand terms in that case, which yes, you can do. Google gets data through a number of different ways, and if you didn't realize, or maybe you thought about before, if you just simply talk around a phone or a device, it picks up your language. That data gets sold to brokers, ends up in Google can use it. Other companies like Facebook can use it. And so they could be saying, your company could be Johnny's Roofing. Somebody says, I need to get a roof built. Have you heard of Johnny's Roofing before? And that picks it up, and you can have your display ad show to that person, which never been to your site yet, but with a little nudge, could get to where they would do business with you. So you're increasing your odds for that person in that type of situation or similar situation. So anyway, you start small, get that to work, then build up. Eventually, optimized targeting is very helpful, but not right away. And the thing is, you only have a set amount of money to get this Google Display Network stuff to work. Eventually, if you don't get any sales, you're either going to give up or you just run out of money. So, or more so, I'm speaking on here, you'll run out of money. So with that, you want to be conservative with your money, wait till you make money, and then use the money you're making to go broader so that you stay in the game, if you will, and not end up running out and just game over for yourself here. So making money up front, you want to go after the known stuff that seems like it will work right away, not the stuff where you're letting Google say, hey, go find me a customer, take a bunch of chances, take a bunch of risks, and then eventually you find me some customers, great, but in the meantime you're going to end up spending a bunch of my money just to learn what works and what doesn't work. That's the stuff you want to stay away from, which there's multiple ways that Google has for you to do that. And what I'm saying is, from the person that actually has to get clients a return on their campaigns, you don't want to stay away from that speculative stuff until you need it to expand, because you can't expand unless you start doing it. So optimized targeting is similar to the thing called audience expansion, which I also recommend turning off until you've had success with the manual targeting options in your accounts, in your display campaigns there. So the difference between audience expansion and optimized targeting here is optimized targeting uses your pixel data about what specifically the purchasing pixel data, who bought or who turned into a lead, to try to analyze all the different data points of what those users are, because Google has millions of possible categories that they can put all of their users into. And so with that, the people who convert on your site into a lead or into a sale, they look at the similarities between the different categories that they have pinned those users down into. Wherever there's an intersection, they go out and try to find customers, sites basically to have your ads running on that have that certain group of categories of traits normally on that site, if that makes sense. Audience expansion, on the other hand, is actually the targeting settings you have. They look at all the data points of users that normally match those targeting traits that are inside for you to choose on, or choose inside Google Display in the targeting settings. And let's just to give you an example, if it was people interested in going to coffee shops a lot, which is actually, Google's gotten really good with the targeting options recently. So if you haven't looked at it, you should. Not to mention, you can make your own and pretty much come up with any kind of targeting combination you want. You could say likes coffee shops but hates, you know, fast food restaurants, but likes reading, you know, nature material, but you know, and you can do like and or and but and so really your job, like I said, to make money with Google Display is just coming down. What's the formula that's going to work? That's going to narrow it down enough to where you're making money. You can do that, you'll make money. So audience expansion, though, going back to what I was saying, is you know, if it's somebody that frequents coffee shops, which if you're wondering how they got that data, by the way, they have Android, they got Google Apps installed on your mobile device. They can see where you're going with your device. They know who's going to coffee shops. So they look at all the traits of the users that they have on file of people that go to coffee shops. Okay, here's the people that go to coffee shops. Here's all the traits that match a person that goes to a coffee shop. You know, they're usually 35 and they like to read, you know, American, or go to CNN.com, whatever. All these different individual traits. They're nature seekers, whatever. Those traits, they will target people with those same traits then itself, and ultimately, instead of you know, having them have went to the coffee shop, people that have those same traits but don't go to a coffee shop, they'll have your ad show up for it. Just try to see if that would work. And technically, respectively, Google should try stuff out and then optimize, but there's no mention that with the audience expansion that they're going to, through trial and error, eventually on their own, find you the audience expansion and the people that are similar to your targeted audience that are going to work. So you have to be aware of that. There's no, you know, gold at the end of the rainbow here necessarily, but that's how the difference. That's the actual difference between audience expansion and optimized targeting. So then, therefore, I would, you know, you're better off with the optimized targeting if you can do it. That is, if you have enough conversion data for Google to really understand the exact people that you want to target, the certain list of traits that you want to target that should match up with people who would buy your product but are not aware of it yet, or just haven't been, you know, they haven't been pitched your offer. So with that said, moving on here, like I mentioned, optimized targeting is supposed to find you more leads like you had before, looking at your purchase pixel data that you have on your site. You could set up conversion tracking, the people that buy. You have that fed into your Google Ads account. They look at that pixel data, all the traits that they have on file for those people, and then try to get you more people, put your offer in front of people with those same traits, as they have it on different websites in which they have the ability to put an ad in front of that person. After 1,000 conversions, I would experiment with this optimized targeting option here. And I would do it before the similar audiences and audience expansion users in terms of expanding your campaign. So you should think of it like this. If you're starting out with Google Display, you haven't got it to work, okay? The first thing you're going to do, like I said before, is you're going to go after manual audiences that you set up. The most profitable, you set up custom intent audience targeting your brand terms. Second most profitable, custom intent audience targeting your competitors' terms. And when you do that, when you target your competitor terms, a lot of times to get that to work, you're going to have to break it up so that you have different ad groups for each competitor, so that you can say a specific thing to a person that's been on your one competitor A's website versus competitor B. You can, because if you know competitor A has this weakness, you can say have an ad that says, you know, we have our product but doesn't have this weakness, in order to get the campaign targeted enough and message match relevant enough to get everything to work. But those audiences would be more of a, you know the value of those are quicker, that you start there. Beyond that, you could get into targeting other custom intent audiences. Mainly what I would normally get into is I'd be all the keywords that work for my Google search campaigns. Since I usually, before doing Google display, I'll do Google search. I'll take all those keywords and create a custom intent audience around that. And then I'll try targeting those people first. Because ultimately what that is, which people don't kind of understand, is those keywords, if they searched them in the past but never clicked to go to my website, which I would then, the people that went to my website, I would have the ability to target those through actual remarketing, which I would do before actually any of this that I told you. You always go after tapping your current customers with ads, because you can do that. And once you've extracted all the value you can out of that, you target as many people, you target people who've been to your site and haven't become a customer or a lead yet. You get everything you can out of that. Then, and only then, you go after the new prospects with your display, because that's going to work better and quicker and first. And then you can reallocate, your profit to more speculative stuff, and then more speculative stuff, and then more and more speculative stuff, until you've hit a roof on what you can earn from Google Display. But anyway, so for the manual targeting, I would create a audience targeting my keywords that basically kind of in general seem to work on my search campaigns. And then from there, there's different other routes you can go. It depends on your market. There's some default audiences in there that you might choose. But those 3 custom intent audiences I mentioned, I would do that first. Get everything you can out of that. Then I would typically go after similar audiences at that time, because I've probably built up a decent amount of traffic volume to my website through Google search. I usually do Google search and then Bing search. And then I'll do, of course, set up my remarketing on as many sites as I can set up as I can in terms of the order I do things, what's the easiest to make money with. And then I'm going to either Google Display or Facebook ads, depends on the market. Depends if it's a more defined user I need, I'll go to Google Display or whatever, generally speaking. Respectively with that though, you get to that kind of point there with what you're doing with PPC to try to scale a PPC strategy for your company, you'll have several hundred visits to the site a day, which is a good amount of data, even several hundred visits a day. You could use similar audience targeting, which will, with that, Google will look at all of the people who've been on your website. You can actually do all the people who have been on your website or all the people that have converted, which the converted one, it would have to be at least 1,000 conversions, but everybody that's converted would be the same as audience optimized targeting anyway. But similar audiences then pretty much is just for, then at this point, because of optimized targeting and kind of redundant, everybody who's been to your site, they look at all the traits of those people. And actually in our experiments, basically similar audiences seems to work better if you look at everybody who's been to the site, because generally speaking, everybody who's been to the site has already been classified as somebody who has a need and or a want for your product and services specifically, so they can look at all the traits of the people who normally want your exact type product or service. Then they can find other people out on the network that have those same traits, and that usually works pretty good after we've got all the ones we can get out of the manual targeting as I described. From there, you're still not satisfied, which you shouldn't be until you've squeezed out every last drop of profit out of what you can do with Google Display Network. You go to optimized targeting, which is the topic of this video. Go after the people who converted, because you probably got enough conversions by then in order to actually make that work physically now. Like I said, at least 1,000 conversions, but it's even better if you have 10,000. Really? 10,000 is really what you want and need and should need with this. If you expect it to work decently well like the other stuff that you did. Why? Because it takes a lot of data for Google to understand with a lot of certainty what are the real traits that match your type of customer. Whereas 1,000, it's really, a lot of times it just won't work with 1,000. So you'll hopefully by then have 10,000 users, and then it can start to look more so instead of the users of the site, but the converted users. And then finally, the last thing I'll do is the audience expansion, going back to what I was talking about there, audience expansion. At that point, the audience expansion can look at the whole of what we're doing and try to expand it further by making guesses about through looking at all of the different traits of all of the users combined, kind of what is ultimately maybe we throw in people who, instead of having these 10 traits that are normally, if we know if they have these 10 traits, they'll usually buy at a rate high enough to justify the cost of the ads for the user. What if we, instead of adding trait 9, we throw in and we add in another trait that we think, because it's relevant to your industry, might work, and then they'll start trying crap out like that. Ultimately, with that, you look at your cost per conversion before you switch over to audience expansion, and then you just see if it's going to work out for you. It'll take a while for it to start working. Start off with there's a slider that it says how aggressive. You start as least aggressive as possible, and you check it 3 to 6 months later, and you see if your cost per conversion has maintained. And if it doesn't work out for you, just shut it off, and you're kind of at your roof already. But if you still have a demand for more, you can try the audience expansion. Not real successful with that in general, but it could work for you. I've seen it where it can possibly work. Usually I have to have a really, really good offer for that to work, really high in demand. Something that's kind of more of a Me Too offer. Or you got to have an extremely good offer with a Me Too offer, then it might work. But anyway, that's in general the process to go through so that you don't run out of money before you make money, and you can take the money you made to reinvest it in making more, but you're basically only re-gambling the money that you've made. You're taking your original investment off the table, and then now it's just play money. With that said, so optimized targeting as a feature, like I said, it's now, if you set up a brand new display campaign starting since spring to summer of 2022, your optimized targeting is enabled by default. So this could be screwing up your progress, but without you even knowing, because you don't have enough pixel data. If you've had your tracking set up for your campaign for a long time and you've had 10,000 conversions, this display campaign with optimized targeting may actually be okay. But if you don't have your tracking set up and your tracking data inside Google Ads set up where it has the specific converter data, and you don't have enough of it, at least 1,000 minimum, but more so like 10,000, it may be screwing up your results and derail your results so much that you run out of money before you even have a chance to make money. So you will want to turn it off until you get that 1,000, if not, if you can wait, 10,000 conversions before you get back into it. How to remove it is actually really easy. You click the ad group in which you want to turn it off on your Google display campaign. You click on settings, then you click on the ad group targeting button, and then you select turn off optimized targeting. It's a little checkbox, and with that you're good to go. The optimized targeting has actually been introduced as a default option on display campaigns now, if you were wondering why, because Google has retired the smart campaigns, the smart display campaigns. Smart display campaigns would try to find you customers looking at the traits of the past customers you got or the past leads you got. So what they did, it was running in beta for long enough, basically, that they decided just to make it as a part of every campaign now, every display campaign. So they retired the smart campaigns so that you're basically going to be set up with it by default, or let's just say forced, if you want to call it forced. And so it's running automatically, which it's not a bad feature, it's just about timing. And you need to be aware that if you don't have a lot of conversion data, this is not going to work well for you. So you shut it off until you're ready. You got your 10,000, hopefully 10,000 customers or leads, and then you can experiment with turning it back on. Respectively, when you turn it on, just like with the audience expansion I said, you are going to carefully monitor what the effect is. anytime you do something major with your PPC, you look at not only your conversion, your cost per conversion that you have, but sometimes it's hard to really see what your profit is from your campaign just by looking at the in-account conversion data. As I've mentioned on other videos, you should actually go to a spreadsheet and mark out your sales by month going back 3 years. See what your sales are. When you go to switch to optimized targeting, see how if your sales go up with your spend. Because a lot of sales are not picked up by the conversion tracking because people come back way later, they switch devices. There's a lot of reasons why conversion data doesn't match what the true effect of the return on a certain advertising strategy actually pulls in. So it's good for optimizing. The data inside your account is great for optimizing, even though it undercounts, because it consistently undercounts a certain percentage. Like, when you only get half of it to really show up in your account of what you really got in terms of conversions, leads, sales. What it ain't good is telling your exact return from your campaign. And so therefore, with that, you look at your year-over-year data on your sales and how that's went up before you introduced a new campaign. That should be done for all you guys out there doing PPC to justify making it work, and so you don't give up on it when really it had a good effect on your sales. But it's also with that your campaign's making money. It doesn't hurt. You're ready to go to the next level. I'm plateaued out. We aren't growing anymore. Switch on optimized targeting. See if the sales go up. Okay, it worked. Okay, let's go to the next thing. And then you just keep doing that over and over and over again. You find new things to test, sometimes that won't work out. You axe them. You might try 4 things for every 5 things that work, but it's play money. Once you got your stuff up and going and it's profitable, you just take 10% of your budget. All times it's just going to go to trying new stuff. And then with that, most of it won't work. Some of it will. That what works will work for years after that pretty much, which will pay for the 4 losses, times 10, and that's how you build up a huge, PPC or online marketing strategy, online marketing advertising strategy for your business, one step at a time. And so it's not a quick get-rich-quick scheme with online advertising a lot of times because the traffic's not cheap anymore, but it works. It's just a matter of methodically coming up with a plan, testing it, carefully monitoring the effect, and then moving forward, and knowing that the conversion trackings in your account isn't the be-all, end-all of what effect it has on your sales in reality. As a small side note to that, and it doesn't matter if you're using Facebook or whatever, your tracking is going to undercount your true sales that you get off of an advertising method. It also, the more advertising you do, the more your organic traffic is going to come up because you're going to have more authority at that point. That contributes about 25% of the sales effect you're going to get from doing PPC. You get referrals off of that. You get repeat business off of that. You're going to have people buying again. There's lifetime value per customer to look at. So you got to, people that win with PPC look at things like lifetime value and these other complementary effects that go into what a customer is truly worth. And once you get one with PPC, because they understand what the true value of it is and are willing to pay XYZ for that customer, whereas their competitors are expecting it to work immediately without any further purchases, without assuming anything else, with organic, without assuming that the account can only count so many of the conversions, it loses some, and then they give up on it, and you're the one that gets it. That gets it all. So with that said, I'll wrap it up with that. If you like this video, I encourage you strongly to subscribe to this channel, because I have a ton of other content just like this that's going to be able to help you make a lot of money with your PPC. If you're interested in making PPC work, this stuff is information that you're not going to be able to find elsewhere. And with that, I would really appreciate it if you would like the video, leave a comment, whatever, to help the algorithm, help people find this content, since it's stuff that people want to find, but it's hard to find. I'd greatly appreciate that. I also have a blog at guaranteedppc.com/blog with step-by-step instructions on how to build PPC campaigns the way that I personally build them. If you want to see information kind of laid out to you like that, what we use for our clients to guarantee their results, you can find it there. If you you have any questions or comments though about the specific information about optimized targeting or anything else I talked about, leave me a comment down below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a comment on this channel. That's it. I'll let you go. Hope to see you in my next video. See you there.